Good evening, everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got the hazardous weather graphics, but nothing on any of them here. Southern Alaska, no watches, warnings, or advisories out for anywhere in the state, public-wise, for the at least through tomorrow and possibly Sunday as well, but at least through tonight and tomorrow. Next up here, the breakup map, and of course really slowed up the process here this week with the April cold snap that rolled on in, and not a whole lot of change going on here on the remainder of the rivers, with quite a stretch, or just about the entire stretch of the Tanana having some open, and then small areas of mostly open. Same thing here on the Copper River, Susitna River, about the same there, and then Yukon, of course, still froze up. And definitely the rivers up to the north-northwest, they always go last. Anyway, moving on to fire danger. No fire danger around, no significant fire danger yet, and that's good news. So rolling on to the next graphic, which is the satellite loops here. You can see the clouds here that lifted northeast. You can barely see them there, and so that ended the snow, followed by some partial clearing sunshine this afternoon in over northern Cook Inlet, Turnagain Arm, and eventually hasn't really reached the Madison Valley yet, and still snow going on with this cloud feature here on up toward the Alaska Range. Lifting north, winds kicked up 25 miles an hour in gusts out of the south-southeast of Gulf Canada this afternoon. Otherwise, wind really, that was one of the stronger wind gusts in the state reported out of the regular reporting stations, and some shower activity here over the southeast coast, southwest flow, keeping the moisture in, with the more frequent showers occurring over the north, more scattered and lighter in nature down to the south. But overall, amounts no more than about 0.3 of an inch fell during the day today. Snowfall across south central Alaska, like 4 to 8 inches falling roughly across the greater Anchorage area. Heavier amounts up into the Chugach Mountains, anywhere from 12 to 15 inches. And then Girdwood had about 10 inches reported. So some pretty good April snowfall with this coming through, but again ending and melting out pretty good in the sunshine during the afternoon today. A lot of cloudiness back here with some scattered isolated snow showers along the southwest coast, kind of dry over the Kuskokwim Valley, maybe a few breaks there, and basically dry from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. Lingering flurries on the east side there, nothing significant, kind of the usual pattern. Area of snow here as that thing shifts up to the northeast toward the Brooks Range there. Some of that could get in Tanana Valley. Clearing out Kodiak Island, this disturbance here pulling off to the east, so seeing some sunshine behind it today, but snow showers up over the Aleutian Range, northeast Bristol Bay area. And then not much going on out to the west here. High pressure way out there towards, well, near the Komodorsky Islands, and kind of a light northerly wind flow keeping it chilly. Upper level disturbance right here coming southward, just trough at the surface. Some showers associated with, they'll probably drop into the Pribilof Islands tonight. So moving on to tonight's forecast map, actually a weak low center does form with that upper disturbance here, and that'll bring some light snow or snow showers into the Pribilof Islands. Winds again pretty insignificant, north maybe 10 to 20, and that's about it. And snow or rain showers, rain and snow, lower elevations, any elevation at all here for the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula will be in the form of snow. Snow showers here possible over the southwest interior. Low pressure developing here, just actually almost up, well, near Denali Park tonight. General trough right through here. But look for snow, and then we've got moisture streaming northeastward here toward the north, or northward toward the North Gulf Coast, and also a moisture feed keeping it unsettled tonight over mainly the central and northern panhandle, drying out down to the south of that 1,025 millibar high there just to the southeast. Areas of snow or snow showers, pretty widespread area up here over the northern interior from the Tanana into the Koyukuk Valley and then along and over the Brooks Range, but just snow showers here to the southwest coast. And then we'll take a look at tomorrow, or actually that trough shifts northward here, and that's what's bringing the moisture with it. So look for an increase in the precipitation again later tonight as that lifts northward here along the North Gulf Coast. Could be a little bit on the moderate side, places like maybe Seward on in toward Portage, Whittier, and then you get that mixed condition. And again, with any elevation, you're going to be in the form of snow. So it's really going to depend on the time of night and your elevation, and well, to a lesser extent, that your latitude, but talking right in through here. Moving on to Saturday's forecast, got low pressure here developing and moving northward, but still barely entering the southwest Gulf of Alaska. That's going to bring a chance of moisture to the east side of Kodiak late in the day, with the clearing back towards Shelikof Strait, northeast Bristol Bay, and also rainfall chances will be highest along the central coast on up in toward Lynn Canal, cutting off roughly at about Juneau. But look for partly sunny skies on down to the southeast there, under a weak ridge of high pressure. Low pressure here right in the eastern interior, not a lot of weather associated with that, mostly dry, maybe some isolated snow or rain and snow showers along the Alaska Range, maybe the White Mountains, but generally staying dry here over the upper Yukon Valley down in toward 40-mile country. A little more scattered snow shower, mostly cloudy condition here back to the west, northern Kuskokwim Valley on up to the Brooks Range. Periods of light snow, fog, low visibilities, western Arctic coast, north slope, there all the way down to Point Hope, and then back to the isolated showers, a very weak trough up in this area. Another weak trough here. They'll tend to enhance the rain and snow showers as it drops in down toward the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. That's just that weak low that forms overnight tonight, actually just damps out again, weakens, and the moisture slides southward. Watching the system coming out of the Russian Far East here that moves to about that position on Saturday, and then it rapidly takes a drop to the southeast here and ends up by Sunday afternoon just north of the eastern Aleutians with, again, snow showers or probably a rain area or a zone of steady rain and snow with showers back to the west, snow showers to the Pribilofs, and again, kind of a series of impulses coming southward here, nothing too terribly strong, but that'll enhance the snow showers with each one of those as they pass by. And that low that tracks, again, this one makes a pretty good jog right up over Cook Inlet by Sunday afternoon at 983 millibars. So look for periods of rain or snow, again, depending on your elevation. Snowfall levels are going to stay pretty low, so don't look for, so again, any elevation to be in the form of snow and rain along the coast, moderate at times possibly. I don't think it'll be heavy. It's mostly associated with a trough, another one coming up. And then that southwest flow keeps it unsettled again over the northern panhandle. We may have a little bit of a break here down to the south, but this warm front is trying to push moisture up across the Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, the Arctic coast, not much change, maybe some fog and flurries on the east side, dry to the west. Lows for tonight, mid-30s for the panhandle, and looking at upper 20s to lower 30s for south central Alaska, into the Copper River Basin, Tanana Valley, lower to mid-20s, teens, say Tanana, and Bettles right around 20. And a little below zero on the western Arctic coast there with lower teens for St. Lawrence Island, and the Pribilofs upper 20s, mid-30s for the Aleutians. Highs for Saturday afternoon, 10 to 15 for the entire stretch of the Arctic coast there, and mid-teens down into the Seward Peninsula, upper teens St. Lawrence Island, and 20s for the Yukon Delta, warming up to near 30 for the Bethel area, and then mid-30s as you head inland here. But lower 40s south central Alaska, same thing with the Tanana Valley, edging up toward 50 toward Northway and Tok. And southeast coast, mid to upper 40s for your afternoon highs. And then the morning lows coming down, not that drastic, but into the mid to upper 30s there. And maybe a shade below zero in areas of the North Slope and Arctic coast, but generally staying near zero or slightly above. Same thing here for the Seward Peninsula, lower teens St. Lawrence Island, upper 20s for the Pribilofs. And a little milder here, still call it upper 20s to lower, maybe mid-30s south central Alaska, especially along the coast, mid to upper 20s there for the Tanana Valley. And then the afternoon highs Sunday, 50 to 55 here, especially toward the eastern border on Sunday. Warming up a little bit there near 50 to the Copper River Basin. 45 to 52 now for northern Cook Inlet, Matanuska Valley, Susitna Valley areas there. 45 to 50 for the Panhandle. Mid to upper 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, and near freezing there for the Pribilof Islands.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Saturday morning's flying weather graphic looking like this. Marginal VFR covers the Bering Sea and the Aleutians on up into the Seward Peninsula. The eastern IFR along and south of the central eastern Brooks Range, all of the Koyukuk Valley, and extending on down and then eastward here along the Alaska Range and Denali Park area, Healy, and southeastward across the Talkeetnas into Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR for the Panhandle. Afternoon forecast, IFR here from the Gulf of Alaska, actually northeast Pacific, right up into the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, and in that zone off to the northwest there across the western Copper River Basin, Talkeetnas to the central Alaskan Range, but mostly south side, and then VFR north of the mountains there through the Tanana Valley, 40 Mile Country, and back into Norton Sound, IFR along and south of the Brooks Range and the eastern Arctic coast. Marginal VFR holds out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And then for Sunday morning, we've got an expanded area VFR here across the southwest, out to the coastline, and then up to St. Lawrence Island into the Chukchi Sea Seward Peninsula. Stays marginal out here for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. IFR here along and just east of the western Alaska Range, southern Cook Inlet. Again, all the Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, into the northern Panhandle and hugging the coastline on down to the south. For the afternoon, that even increases here over the Panhandle. You got the central area still holding marginal, but IFR back across the Gulf, North Gulf Coast there, southern Cook Inlet up along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Pretty good VFR here. Northern Copper River Basin on up to the Yukon Porcupine River areas, and then marginal VFR North Coast, Arctic Coast, southward here across Kuskokwim Valley into Kodiak, and then VFR, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, out to the coastline, marginal again, pretty persistent pattern there for the Aleutians and Bering Sea. For Anaktuvik and Adigan passes, both IFR most of the time throughout the day tomorrow. And Lake Clark and Merrill starting out marginal, becoming VFR for the afternoon. And for Rainy, same trend, probably could start out IFR there and then maybe take a little longer becoming VFR, but the afternoon still looking really good. And for Windy, marginal VFR for the pass southern entrance, north side VFR, same, Isabel IFR, and then Mentasta, marginal VFR for the south entrance into the pass, and then out the north side, hopefully VFR. And for Tanita, marginal VFR, Portage, another IFR day coming up, and Chilkoot and White looking pretty marginal. For the freezing level tomorrow morning, 2,000 feet here, south of Dixon Entrance and south of the Gulf of Alaska at the surface, up the east side of the Panhandle, and then, like we saw, it seemed like most of the winter, hugging the North Gulf Coast here down to Kodiak, and nudging back up near the Pribilofs. Icing, none out west, Aleutians icing free. Much of the interior could see some areas of up there below about 7,000 feet for the North Slope and Arctic coast, and better chances though with moisture coming northward. Could be areas of considerable moderate due to the interaction of the terrain here right along the North Gulf Coast coastal mountains. Otherwise light to isolated moderate, actually improving here. Better chances for Cook Inlet, that'll be shifting east, and this will also be shifting eastward during the day into the north coast of the Panhandle. Jet stream, southwest flow again carrying that moisture in, and only 50 to 60 knots, the stronger Pacific jet here well to the south and extending back to the west, staying south of even the Aleutians. Northwest 60 knots there, coming around high pressure over the far western Bering Sea and Kamchatka Peninsula. 9,000 feet, main low center up there just well, actually near Point Hope, a trough extending to a weaker center over the southwest, and then back to a little bit stronger center here southeast of Kodiak. Northwest flow, 15 to 20. Eastern Bering Sea picking up a little, maybe up to 30 to 35 for the west central Aleutians. Southeasterlies up 25, maybe 30 knots along the North Gulf Coast toward Prince William Sound. South to north flow here 15 to 30 over the interior. And for 3,000 feet, southeast winds, strongest mostly staying west of the Panhandle there, 25 into Prince William Sound. Light over the interior, northwest 15 to 25 out west. Turbulence, smooth here for the Aleutians and Bering Sea. All the interior looking really good. Look for maybe considerable moderate chop, especially for small aircraft tomorrow afternoon. Prince William Sound, right along the coast down to maybe Port Alexander, and otherwise pretty smooth elsewhere. After the break, I'll return to look at the ice conditions and the marine forecasts.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us here today is Eric Stevens from the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, GINA for short. And Eric, you frequently come on the show to tell us about these really cool things that we're doing with satellites over Alaska and how we can use these really awesome tools. But I'm thinking all the while there has to be a mad scientist somewhere working on the next cool thing in the satellite laboratory. What is being developed today?
Right. Well, you know, when I was a kid growing up in the boonies in North Dakota there, on Sunday after church, the old people, like my parents and their parents, would gather and have coffee and talk. And I kind of eavesdropped on them a little bit. And the theme of a lot of these conversations seemed to be, well, isn't it amazing what they can do these days, someone would say.
Sure.
And I was thinking, well, I don't know, I was too young.
Right.
Well, now I'm old enough in the weather satellite business.
You can remember when.
The new generation of weather satellites, I'm starting to say, isn't it amazing what they can do these days? Because it's always improving.
Yes.
Maybe an analogy here is like television. Television started in black and white, then it went to color. Analog signal transitioned to digital here a number of years ago. Standard definition becomes high definition. Right. Well, weather satellites are changing too. First weather satellites went up around 1960, not that long ago. No. It's comparatively young science. And every time a new series of satellite is launched, we learn from the past, so the mad scientists decide, well, we could make the next satellite even better in such and such a respect.
Yes.
And now the United States is on the verge of launching, or in progress of launching, a series of new geostationary satellites that are better than ever before. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the previews of what these new satellites can do.
Peek inside the lab here, okay.
Yeah, and so we'll peek in, and here are some mad scientists and mad technicians dressed in bunny suits. This is, believe it or not, this is the business end of a weather satellite under construction in a clean room. You don't want a speck of dust on the lens of a weather satellite's camera. So this is done in a clean environment. They are building a geostationary satellite there.
Oh, cool.
This new generation of satellites, if you had to answer the question, why are these better? Why do we care?
Okay.
You could answer it with 3 words: faster, better, more. The new generation of satellites are faster than the older ones. The images are sharper, they're better, and there's more spectral channels. We'll talk about that.
Any one of these called Steve Austin? It sounds faster, better, stronger.
Yeah. You know what though? These things cost more than $6 million.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're pricey, but they are an essential tool for the Weather Service to fulfill its mission of protecting lives and property.
Exactly.
You got to have the tool to do the job, and it helps all of us when we get the accurate forecast, the warning in time, and this is the tool. Faster. On left here, we see what the old generation of satellites could scan in 5 minutes. On the right, that's what you get in 5 minutes, the whole planet, or at least one side of it. So it's faster. That means you can take more images over a given amount of time and make smoother movie loops out of that. Because animating movie loops really helps you highlight a feature that maybe you can't see as well in a single image.
Absolutely does, yep.
Let's zoom into a small piece of real estate like Texas.
Sure.
And we can see here a satellite that has a 1-minute movie loop visible light. You can see thunderstorms boiling there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the rippling of the top of the thunderstorm. This is a fun movie loop. We're going to be able to see things like this more and more often because of the new satellites being generated. Some things are only evident in animation. So that's faster. Well, what's better? We're able to now have sharper imagery than before. The Japanese have a satellite that uses the same imager that is on the new generation of satellites that America is launching too. An imager, that's just a word for camera. It's the camera on a weather satellite. We have something called the Advanced Baseline Imager.
Sounds important.
ABI. It's important enough, it has an acronym. Everything's an acronym. Well, an ABI-like instrument is here over the Western Pacific, and we can see this color image. This is what a human eye might see if you were riding on the satellite.
Okay.
But it's a little bit fuzzy. With new technology, you can post-process the image taken by the satellite to highlight and sharpen some of the features. So this image here of the Western Pacific then becomes this image. Thanks to the processing techniques, yes, this is the newest technology. So we've got a new satellite that can provide better data than ever before. And on the ground, we can process it better than before as well to really sharpen up the imagery and to give us a better view of the weather than ever before. So faster and better and more. What do we mean by more? Well, on the older generation of satellites, the imager, the camera, had 5 slices of the spectral pie, visible imagery, infrared imagery, something we can't see from the human eye. A lot of different slices of the pie. We're going from 5, the new imager has 16 slices. Each slice has its own relevance. Some are best for volcanic ash, for smoke, for dust, for telling the difference between smoke and dust, which can look similar under some infrared channels, but other ones bring out certain things. All of these 16 bands are important. In fact, some of the mad scientists, they didn't want 16, they wanted 24. There's always more you can do. But that'll be the next generation of satellites. So now we say, isn't it amazing what we can do these days? And you know what? It makes you think, well, what's the future going to be like too? It's so important to be able to know what's going on now in the weather. If you're going to forecast the future, you got to know where things are now. And satellites are the way to see that, especially in Alaska, where we don't have as many observations down on the ground. The satellites fill in the holes.
Yeah, really important stuff. And I love hearing about what we can see right now, but I love thinking about what is possible in the future. It's amazing stuff. And since you paid for it, it's a good time to learn about it. If you'd like, check out the website at www.goes-r.gov. And as I understand, it's a really easy website to use.
Oh yeah, a lot of good information about what these new satellites mean to Americans. And it's the Weather Service's mission to protect lives and property, and this is the tool how to do it.
Cool stuff, Eric. Thanks so much for sharing that with us today, and thank you for joining us right here in Alaska Weather Facts. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Over the last 5 days or so, or week to 5 days, quite an increase in the sea ice here north of St. Lawrence Island. We're all in the white, and that's increased pretty well here to the south and southwest. Also seen an increase here over Norton Sound and even to some extent along the Yukon Delta coast. And moving on to the coastal water forecast, we've got gale force east-southeasterlies here in the extreme north coast. Otherwise, small craft advisories, southeast 25 knots. Central coast turns south at 30 down along the coast of Prince of Wales Island. Inland or southern inside waters, lighter winds, south 15 Clarence Strait, southeast 15 Stevens Passage, and south 15 for Lynn Canal. Then on Sunday, those winds increase, especially over the central and southern inside waters with Clarence Strait up to 30 knots, sustained from the southeast. Gale force gusts for Stevens Passage, southeast 15 Lynn Canal. South winds 30 knots on the south coast, seas 13 feet, and south to southeast 30 to 35. So some gales back in the forecast here on the extreme north coast. For Prince William Sound, east winds 20 knots tomorrow, southeast 25 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, and easterly at 20. For the western zone, turns northeast at 20 across the Barren Islands, north 15 Kamishak Bay, southern Cook Inlet. North of the Forelands, a light northeast breeze at 10 with 2-foot seas. Then 25-knot winds come in, so small craft advisories for all of Cook Inlet for Sunday. Northwest here for the northern part, and south of the Forelands, west 25, a little bit stronger there for Kamishak Bay, west 30 knots, right on across the Barren Islands, turning south 30 knots to the western North Gulf Coast, and then in and around that Middleton Island zone, southerlies at 40 knots, so good gales in the forecast there for Sunday, and also for Prince William Sound, easterly gales, winds or seas building to 9 feet. And then for Shelikof Strait tomorrow, northeast at 15, northeast 20 east side of Kodiak Island, north 20 there southwest of Sitkinak, light northwesterlies for the Alaska Peninsula, and even lighter northerlies for Bristol Bay. Then we'll see an increase in the winds here for the Alaska Peninsula, northwest 25 for Sunday and northwest 20 for Bristol Bay. And then we've got 25-knot winds, Castle Cape to Sitkinak, and then those turn westerly for Kodiak Island. West winds 25 knots, seas 6 to 9 feet. Fox Islands tomorrow, west-northwest, 20 to 25 knots, seas running 5 to 7 feet. Central Aleutians, lighter winds from the north-northwest, sustained 20 or so, or 20 or less, with 5 to 6 foot seas, and that extends all the way out down Chitka Island, mostly northwest for Shimei and Attu. And then 25-knot winds here from Shimei and Attu all the way down across Adak and Atka, and slipping in toward Nikolsky there, Unmak Island, and Unalaska Island, northwest 15 to 25, strongest south of the islands. And for the southwest coast, north 15 to 20 knots, north 20 for the Pribilofs, light winds from the northern Bering Sea out of the north with those 15-knot winds right up across St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound. And then for Sunday, 20-knot winds now, a little bit of an increase, but nothing serious. Northwest 20, but small craft advisory south of Nunivak Island with 6-foot seas. Light variable to southeast winds for the Pribilofs at 10 knots with 4-foot seas. And then for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, 20-knot winds here on the extreme east side, farther to the west, about 15 knots, all the way to the central coast. Northwest 15 on the west side, and from Cape Beaufort all the way down to Wales, 10 to 15-knot northwesterlies. And for Sunday, light northwest winds here for the southeast Chukchi Sea, Cape Thompson, and the west side there, northeast at 15, a little bit breezier on the central coast at 20 knots, then back down to east 15, all the way over to Demarcation Point. And for tonight, cloudy skies mostly here with areas of snow, kind of a band lifting northward here. So that's going to bring steady snow across the Koyukuk Valley right up into the Brooks Range. And then more moisture streaming northwards. This trough kind of angles, pivots around, and that's going to affect mostly the coast and western Prince William Sound. Definitely an increase in the wind or the rain, and then any elevation at all. We're going to be in the form of snow here over the interior, southern interior areas, and it stays kind of showery over the northern, central, southeast coast. Outlook for tomorrow, partly sunny over the southern panhandle, and then rain on the increase in the afternoon for the north coast, and a little bit drier here, but again, rain trying to push back up associated with this system farther to the south. Not too bad in the west, kind of unsettled, chilly, and maybe some snow showers. And that band of snow brings steady snow to the western central Arctic coast. And the outlook on Sunday, pretty good low, moves right into south central Alaska.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.